I am so.
Hello, world, and welcome to our podcast. We're two pals with totally different viewpoints, thoughts, and really don't know much of anything. Fly by the seat of their pants discussing news, politics, conspiracy theories, and much, much more. One's a genius, the other's an idiot. Or are they both idiots?
Or are they both geniuses?
You be the judge. Now, live from beautiful Central Florida, welcome to Political No Brainer. Your host to your right and always right. It's me, it's Zach. And to your left, and I don't even want to know anymore. It's Coach Trippy. What's up, Tripperoo?
What's going on? We got a great guest tonight. I'm
I know we
excited.
got a beautiful guest with us this evening. My soon to be your friend, but my friend Derek
We're friends
Huizinga.
already. Friends for
He is
life
a
now.
he is a Central Florida transplant come down from Michigan, correct?
You got it, man.
Yes. And
I love Michigan. I
he
have to
is
visit. I've never seen it, but I heard it's got the world's biggest Christmas store.
We used to go there every Thanksgiving, and we would go there like a Thanksgiving weekend to
where is
Bronner.
it?
Yeah.
Where's the Christmas store?
It's Frankenmuth, so it's basically like maybe an hour north of kind of central Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been to Grand Rapids and my mom was big in Amway back in the day, so we always had to go to Ada to go visit
Our
the
house
plant.
our house was built like 5 miles from headquarters there.
Okay.
Hmm.
She was always like wanting me to be a truck driver for him because they always drove the nicest white clean trucks. It was pretty cool.
Dude, private business, man. That's hey, that is the same source of the arena, the Kia Center, the DeVos family when it was
Yep.
Amway.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. So
And
Amway built a lot of Grand Rapids and a lot of Orlando.
we will be discussing business because Derek is a business owner here in Orlando. He owns Turbo Tint in Central Florida, and that's how I met him. We had our cars tinted, and actually, Derek, I'll be coming to see you very soon. We've got two new cars, and so
Someone.
if you are in Florida, I'm gonna tell you there is no better tint shop. Not only is it the cleanest place I've ever been in? Like he's got drinks for you. The owner, like actually, that's how we met. The owner comes out and talks to you and hangs out, and they're just pumping cars out of there. It was a great, very awesome. I mean, that's why we fell in love with you, Derek. That's what my wife and I are like. We will never do business anywhere
Love
else
you,
without
dude.
tinting vehicles. And then he has some other businesses going on, which we're going to discuss tonight. So I'm sure I'll do some more commercials for him as we go on. But if you want to get all your tinting needs, come see Derek at Turbo Tint. Tell him Zach sent you, and they'll probably slap
Thank
you in the
you.
face.
And
But
Coach Trippy, I'm
yeah, tell him
vouching.
Coach Trippy. He'll actually ask you to leave then. So Derek,
Yo.
you moved down to Florida 3 years ago.
Hmm.
You got sick of the snow.
So we moved July 2021. Orlando was always a fantasy joke for us for 6, 7 years. My wife's my brother-in-law moved here. They were vacation club members growing up. I'd never been till like 2015. And then I kind of
Wow.
fell in love because I'm like, oh, I missed this as a kid. We joked about it. We came down during COVID when everyone in Michigan's walking around with a business suit and a bowl cut because couldn't get her hair cut. Went down there and we're like, oh, okay, people are kind of like rational here, right? The state's really right, the county's really left, cool. They can get together and say, well, maybe we don't want to nuke all the businesses. At least we want to stay open. We're like, we kind of like that. We dig that. So, meanwhile, Michigan's becoming really polarized, really ineffective with their state budget, income tax, and kind of you mix those all in a pot with driving around 5 a.m. with white knuckles, thinking you're going to die on the roads. And you're like, you know what? Um, let's do it. So
Orlando
I had a
bound you
job
were.
and a business at the time, and I said, well, we need another income source, So bought this monstrosity down here and built it from scratch. And, that was 4.5 years ago when we started thinking about it. And July 2021 moved down, and here we are now, over 3 years.
That's
Made in the
awesome.
swamp, man. The first 2 years was hell on the health with the allergies and the COVID. This is a cesspool, but once we got past that health barrier, it's like you bulletproof. It's nuts.
And I also
Yeah,
find it quite hilarious where you
allergies
opened your
are.
shop. Let's move to Florida and build right on OBT
Well, it's very
amongst
gentrified though, because that as that's an old Kmart center. Ours
yeah.
specifically was the auto center. And when I
Oh, I
came
know
to
where that is.
Yeah.
it's right by the Florida Mall, okay? So when I
Right.
give people directions, I'm key in that. I'm like OBT and Sand Lake, Florida Mall, okay? So at least they're like, oh, okay, that's been, improved. And they
A little
actually
bit.
just leased out the last space in our shopping center. So we went from a drug-infested, homeless, needle pinching wasteland to actually, and it's all brand new long-term leases and everything's leased out, new restaurant on the corner.
That's awesome.
At least that little corner, a slice of heaven compared to, going north a couple miles or whatnot. So it's they did the right thing with that shopping center.
You got to drive through the war zone to get to your place. But I mean, it actually is really nicer. I still laugh at the fence they put in the middle of OBT because it's already getting hit. I see people running into
It
it.
got hit. It got clobbered.
I told you the other day, I was telling you, if the middle of it, like it was falling over.
That's an opportunity for you
I
to
know, but the
more
city went, well,
fences.
you know what?
He's not the
I know
commercial
guys,
guy.
no, but I know guys in the city. I've done jobs for the city actually, and they didn't call me on that one. But I laugh because I watch, they put all these humps in and lights where people are supposed to cross the streets. Nope.
They
They just
called you
cross.
to install it.
They watch everybody just cross wherever. It's hilarious. But that's Orange Blossom Trail in Orlando. And if anybody has no idea what that is because they've never been to Orlando, it is definitely not Disney. It is
No.
definitely not Universal, and
Not.
it is definitely not anything you expect. I really love when people come down here for Disney or for Universal or for SeaWorld and you're chatting with them and they're like, dude, Orlando's scary. I'm like,
The
what do you think it
jungle,
was?
man. It's
Do you think it was
savage.
pixie dust and fairies everywhere? Come on. But
Yeah,
I
pixie
mean,
dust and axle rust, man. Like near. We rented a year in kind of by the loop there, South Central, and it's like it was a near death experience driving. Great access to Disney, but then when we got our house in 22, worst time to buy ever. Um, Almost value wise. We went
right.
way out here. We're north of Magic Kingdom, like 5 miles. We're in the bubble, so we're not too far
Where do you
from it.
guys live? Are
Yeah,
you in Winter
South
Garden?
Cheese.
Like Hamlin Grove area.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
it's Winter Garden. Now it's
yeah,
called Hamlin. They made it
sort
fancy.
of. It's like
They
you're
made it like
west of
Baldwin
Windermere
Parks,
Point,
Orlando. I mean, come on.
Horizon West,
Yeah.
kind of Windermere Garden West.
I'm
Yeah,
in lovely,
it's
beautiful
Northern Windermere.
Claremont.
That's what they call it.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Or then
good.
you come up to my area, which is a Popka. We're just a bunch of good old boys up here driving big
I
jet
thought you a
trucks
bunch of
around.
hillbillies.
That's right. Come on, the APK.
Heck yeah. So like Confederate flags up there and
Oh,
barn
as
burning
soon
and
as if you pull into my neighborhood, the first house has a big Trump and a Confederate flag. I mean, it's hilarious.
where do,
Listen, if you pull in my neighborhood, there's a Hardee's gas station. They have people on horses with Confederate flags.
Oh,
It's
where are
that's
crazy.
you
right. He's out in
where are you
Claremont.
at, Trippy?
I'm in Claremont. It's north.
Oh yeah.
It's a little bit south of the villages, which is
Yep.
completely another. It's
Oh,
another
are you like Groveland or Montverde? Or?
Groveland, Mineola, Groveland. But my address is Claremont.
Let me tell you what. There's a restaurant there that I absolutely love.
What one?
The Tiki Bar.
Oh yeah, I drive by there every
Best
day.
burgers ever. I went there one time on a date. We park in the parking lot. It's over in Mineola, right? It's in Mineola, Trippy.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's in the Mineola Inn behind it, and you park in their parking lot. And I'm walking down this path, and I'm like, what kind of redneck swamp hootenanny am I walking into? And all of a sudden, you come around
You
the corner, and it's a bar right on the lake, and boats are pulling up, and families are there, and they serve the
oh
best
cool.
burgers
We've
ever.
never been there. We got to take the kids. I've only lived here 23 years, so we're not rushing into
Yeah,
anything.
don't rush into it, bud. Don't go crazy.
We've never been
I
there.
was
But
actually I was in Claremont on Sunday.
everybody that talks about it says it's absolutely wonderful.
I'm telling you, best burger you ever
Including
had.
my co-host.
Although I'm not gonna lie. I ate at the Hangry Bison today in Winter Garden. They made a really good burger.
The Hangry
So
Bison.
Was it a bison burger?
I didn't go for the bison. I went for the short rib burger. Last time I got buffalo, I was not it was not that good. I didn't
Geyser
like it.
Point Wilderness Lodge bison burger. Thank you. You're welcome, Trippy.
I got to try that too. I don't get out much.
He
I
doesn't.
got
So good.
He works 24 hours a day and then sleeps in the parking lot.
That's what you got to do, man. That's what they got. I'm on a ball and
because
chain over here.
are we ready for this? It's because of Biden did that.
That's
Bidenomics, right?
Biden's
That's why
fault.
you got to work so much to pay your bills.
I remember the stickers on the gas pumps. Biden did that.
I
Now
did that. That's
now
Oh
awesome.
we're doing
yeah. I
290.
remember
And
those.
Yeah,
people, and they actually got on the news or somewhere and was like, please stop putting stickers on the gas
That
pumps.
was like mid 2021 before it was even that bad, before credit card debt was 1.4 trillion.
Oh,
That
I
was
don't.
like 3 years ago.
Yep. We
And
are.
now look at it. It's like
We're
Well,
it's
it's a mess.
we're not going back. We're going a new way forward, allegedly.
we are. Are you acknowledging
Even though we're going back at
I'm
the
acknowledging that statement, which is pure communism, but we'll talk
It's
about
true.
that later.
Yep.
So one of the reasons, other than the fact it's great to have you on the show, and thank you so very much, but
Thank you.
I wanted to get a local entrepreneur on the show to discuss. I don't care what side you sway. I want to hear how is when Trump was in office when you had your business versus Bidenomics.
Well, I'll say what side I sway because I'm very open about it and I don't think it's a bad thing. I always tell people you need to vote and you need to vote based on the policies that help your family the best. And that's different for obviously for a small business owner or a large tech company entrepreneur, a public health worker or a public health servant, I guess I'd say, or a school teacher. It's going to be very different. So I was raised extremely conservative. That's what West Michigan was when I was growing up, right? It was just mom and dad voted for Bush. That must be the right guy, whatever it may be.
Right.
And I didn't really care about politics at all until Trump first ran in 2015 because it was entertaining, right? And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, this is real. And then you're like, oh. And then you started to think like, well, I don't know who I like from a personality, but from an establishment standpoint, what I believe is the government's too big. That's not a belief. It's just look at our national debt and look at all the proposals of let's give money here, there, and this will help these people out. Well, sure, it will today, but tomorrow it's going to screw everyone. So to me, I would always say like, okay, maybe I'm like a conservative base, but more of a libertarian kind of. I like hearing everyone's view. Honestly, I seriously do. I've had the best conversations with people on the opposite spectrum as me, and it used to be fun before COVID, right? Before it was like, oh, I hate you because you're politically different, which is the stupidest thing ever.
Right.
well,
To
hang on. So a couple of points on that, and then I don't mean to interrupt, but
Yeah,
one, the
do it.
only president that ever shrunk the size of government, the only president, is Clinton. He brought down, Gore was in charge of the operation of shrinking the size of government. He did bring it down by 100,000 employees.
But now
Trump
back
did
when
not.
Clinton was in office,
But
that was a
hang
different Democrat.
on. Okay, but I'm just saying the only president to bring down the size of government.
Clinton
Um,
did a lot of good things.
One president that promised to bring down
Just
the
ask
size of
Monica.
government was Ronald Reagan, and then I'm done on this here soapbox. Was Ronald Reagan? He promised to close the Department of Education. He promised to close the Department of Energy, and both grew in size and scope on his 8 years watch, and they never closed, as you know. So I don't. Donald Trump did not bring down the size of government. He did, when we talk about spending money here and spending money there, and not to get into a whole nother, I don't want to go left, right, and center here, but
Yep.
the $1.5 trillion tax cut is historically very similar to Ronald Reagan's tax cut. It's one we can't afford. And when Ronald Reagan passed his tax cuts, which was pretty huge at the time, I think Donald Trump's was the biggest. Ultimately, Congress passed numerous tax increases to compensate for Ronald Reagan's tax cut because there wasn't enough revenue coming into Washington. And Ronald Reagan signed all those new tax increases into law. So we're in that boat now. We've got a tax cut we can't pay for. There's not enough money coming in. It was promised that it would pay for itself, that the economy would just blossom and the revenue would increase incrementally. It did not happen that way. So when Kamala Harris, for example, talks about raising the capital gains tax, it's significantly less than Biden would have raised it. But there is a need to bring in some new tax revenue. I don't think it's fair that we are raising the capital gains tax. I think we should repeal the tax cut that Donald Trump passed. But whatever it is, there's a genuine need to bring in more revenue into Washington. And we're going to see it on September 30th. There's probably going to be a government shutdown again.
I hadn't
Okay,
heard that. I didn't know. I mean,
that's coming up.
they got so
And
many other things going on that
Mitch
I didn't
McConnell
know.
made it clear if this happens, we're going to get blamed for it. And that will again, so to those election
I mean,
deniers.
haven't we heard that how many times in the last 2 years about shutdown? How serious are we getting? You know what I'm saying? Because
Well,
that
there's been shutdowns, and this is pretty serious.
Didn't it
This
shut
is
down when Trump was in office a couple times?
I don't know, a couple times, at
I
least
don't know.
once, if I remember.
I don't.
But
And I have to agree with you there. I had no interest in politics other than I grew up in a very conservative house,
Mhm.
and Reagan was our hero, and then Bush Jr. was my mom loved him, and Clinton was the bad man because he was dirty as far as with his sexual promiscuity or
Slick
whatever.
Willie.
Yeah. And so that was in my house, being a very religious based home,
Yeah.
that was bad. But I've
Yeah.
seen some of the stuff he did that like if he was a Democrat, they just called him a politician, you might say he was pretty much just like the rest of the guys, like right in the middle. It didn't start going crazy. And where I really started getting interested was like when Obama started running it, and then you see the great divide going on, and it just got ridiculous. And
Yeah.
then, our hero Trump ran for office, and that was we were excited about that. So that's when I got involved, and then I've known Jeff for 30 years, and
Yeah.
we never talked really politics till we decided one day.
Until I came up with the idea that Zach would be the greatest co-host ever on the greatest podcast ever
In the world.
in the
In the
world.
world. That's why our show
It's
is
gonna
not
be bigly,
Hello America. Now it's Hello World.
huge,
Huge,
huge.
bigly, bigly.
Bigly. Yeah.
So we started talking politics, and I said I better start researching stuff because I don't want to look like an idiot in front of
Yeah.
a liberal. And that's where we went. So we try and get everybody on the show that I don't necessarily bring people on who because they believe everything I believe, other than we have our greatest guest whoever's ever been on, my wife. And
LA's Jacqueline.
we love having her on because she'll actually tell both of us to shut up, and she handles
She
business.
does.
But so we love hearing from everybody's sides, and we love to talk to educators and businessmen, and one of the things with you is that excites me is because in this political landscape of nonsense, I don't care who's in office. I think right now everything's nonsense. The little guy, the little businessman is really struggling. And we had this conversation. You were out of town last week because you were getting trained because you have to do a new business on the side to help support your business.
Number 3.
Number 3,
How is business though? What is number one? The number one is tinting, right? And then it's down.
badly
I guess
down.
how extreme of a word you want to use. So I have a digital marketing business. In March, big tech central Google, Big Brother, decided they were going to basically award the biggest brands and the biggest companies with all the favorability. Probably shouldn't be saying this. I'll probably show up missing tomorrow, so I'll be a little careful. But we
Listen,
went
if
from
you get a
we
threat,
went
just let
from
me know.
we
I
went
know
from
people.
billing out like 45K a week to like 25, and then by July, August, like 12. I mean, we've done a lot of things. We've taken a lot of steps to improve that. There's a game plan, there's progress, et cetera. But while that was happening, actually, the tent business was actually booming. We'd been in business for 2 years and haven't really seen much of a profit. And then starting March or April, it was profit, 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 profit through July, kind of define what those economic bubble factors are that people talk about. But externals that happened in August actually is you saw new car sales plummet in combination with dealerships trying to compensate for that by basically selling the types of services that we do, requiring that to go on vehicles that went out the door. So we saw a 31% month over month decrease from July to August. And August should be one of your strongest months in a business like this down here because of the heat. So, quite frankly, in terms of revenue, the revenue swing that was for us was net 60 grand. Small business. Okay. Um, when you're talking those numbers, you go from a modest profit to a major loss. Major. In small guy terms, a 5-figure loss. And you just can't withstand that month over month. So, as a business, you have to do a SWOT analysis, right? You have to look at the externals and the internals. Are we doing everything we can? And we have done I mean, Zach, you talked about you liked our business when you came in. It's so much better. It's disgusting. It's so much better. It's so much cleaner. We do so much more. Our shop is so much prettier. The floor is so much better. The lights are so much better. The service is so much better. The speed so much better. The warranties are so much fewer. I mean, don't trust anyone. Just go to our Google reviews. 15, I think there's 1,595 star. I mean, it's bizarre how fast we did that in 2.5 years because we took care of people. And it doesn't matter. I mean, you could be a rock star, but just the way the externals are right now, it's just it's had a major effect. So, and I would say those externals would be, stuff going on with new cars that you can't control, stuff going on with credit card debt you can't control, inflation that you can't control, um, just consumer confidence that you can't control, election people getting nervous volatility wise that you can't control. So there's all those things going on right now, and that's not uncommon for election years, but I would say, although my experience is limited with business and election years, I would say this is very extreme, and many people would agree. And as a
And I
small business, because of inflation, all those things, you're not going to just go around and get money. No, I mean, you can take an 840 credit score and they're like, oh yeah, hey, I have a 14% APR. And it's like, no, no, thank you. So
I'm
that's kind
I'm
of the
I'm I'm hearing that in my business also, where we're
Mhm.
the largest company in what we do in America,
Yeah.
400 locations, 15,000 five-star reviews. And this last 2 months, I've seen it decrease massively. People are
Hmm.
scared people are scared to come out of pocket. I've actually had people who I try not to ever talk politics when I don't believe mixing business with politics is a good thing.
No.
But if they bring it up, I'm not going to be a schmuck. And I don't care which way they lean. I'm just going to chat with them. And I've had a lot of people say, you know, how long is this good for? I said, well, the estimate's good for 15 days. And I said, but I can open it up whenever, if you decide to wait, if you have some projects you're working on or whatever. And they're like, yeah, the project is we're waiting until the election's over. And
Well, that's
I've heard it from
unusual.
both sides, not just Republicans. I'm hearing it from both sides. They're just like, we just want to see. And I had a guy who 800 beacon score, whatever, perfect credit, tell me, dude, your guy's credit, the lowest rate is 8.99. Why would I do that? I said, I'm not telling you go with me. I'm just saying maybe get a better loan at your bank. He's like, no, I can't. That's the problem.
Can't. You
So they
can't.
don't want to pony up their own cash because, most people I know, especially, and I had this discussion with our good friend Daniel, who's going to come onto the show with us. Hopefully next week, maybe the week after, we're going to have Daniel on and we'll have Derek on with him. That's going to be a really good entrepreneur show. But Daniel was saying everybody he works with, because, he's in the housing and market. And he's saying these people all use everyone else's money to own things. And he said, but the interest rates are getting ridiculous. But didn't the
Well,
Fed
here's
drop the
here's
rate
your
today?
options. Here's your options right now. Let's not talk good economy, bad economy, left, right. Let's just put the options out here for business. Here's your options. Spend your cash and not know what the heck's going to go on over the next few months and kill yourself, or have incredible credit and incredible business history and get a high interest rate loan.
Yeah.
So you know what the answer is in a lot of either business to business decisions and business to consumer decisions, but those trickle up to business is let's just hold, wait, see.
Well, there's
Well,
two things. One is like you said that Google transferred basically the main hits to big business, and that's really cannibalized your business. I remember 15 years ago, 20 years ago, maybe I had a commercial cleaning business, and all I had to do is buy a yellow page ad for about $300 a month, and I got more calls than I could handle. And that was it. That was the flat rate. 350 bucks a month got me a dollar size ad. And I remember I had gotten a call from every club in downtown Orlando, and I could only take about five at the time. And they were literally still calling because they either just wanted a quote or now today, I actually own a small business, and it's a medical waste business. So I go to the doctor's office, I pick up sharps boxes. I can't get any accounts other than the smaller dentists because a lot of them are national accounts. A lot of the
Yeah.
dentists are going through Google to get their lead, to get their I guess recommendations are there people to call. I'm
Or
not
they're
getting
corporate directed supply
yeah,
chain.
or they're
Yeah.
corporate directed.
Right.
One time I called Google AdWords, which is the local Google for a small business. It's more of a local thing. And I said, how much is a click? And the salesman said, well, that's the $64,000 question. I'm like, well, how much is a click? I mean, could you just tell me? Is it 10 cents? Well, it can be anywhere from 40 cents to $4.51 a click.
True
I'm
statement.
like, yeah. And I'm like, so somebody's gonna click on my, and he's like, but you spend what you want. You tell me you want 75 bucks. So sure, we have 15 clicks for 75 bucks. And then then you're gonna send me an email that I need to go to $400 budget, and you're gonna click and So it's
Yep.
changed significantly. Big business has taken control. I don't think that was a government movement. I think Google found a niche and took over.
Well, obviously, right? The money's going to go where they can get the money.
Right.
Right?
So
Now you can mix in
doesn't
lobbying and government to that. There's an element to it, of course. Like
right.
business is going to go where the money is, and especially when you're a publicly traded company, right? Talking about Amazon, or are you talking about even Tesla or Microsoft or Google or Disney or whatever? You are answer to your stockholders.
Yeah.
And guess what the only acceptable answer to your stockholder is? Up.
We made money.
No, we made more money.
Okay, true,
Yeah,
true. Yes,
every
yes.
quarter it has to be better than the last quarter. You got to beat every quarter and every
People
year.
talk about CEO salaries, it's so bloated, this and that. Well, do you have a job where if you don't grow 5%, you're fired tomorrow?
Right.
Right? So I mean
They are.
it's all an element, right? And I mean, when we grew my business, I actually for a few months I spent about 30 grand a month on Google Ads. Can you believe that? Small business. Now, now
Was
my
that for the
entire ad
tent
budget is
business?
like 12 to 15, and that's still about 10% or so. But um, that's a completely different world. You can't put it all in one box. You don't know what you're going to get. Different campaigns are going to generate different click rates. Um, we were getting a cost of acquisition per vehicle when we had our ads really dialed in of $30-40, which is about 10%, which is really healthy because then you can, like Zach can come back and he's not going to take any of my ad money to do that. You know what I'm saying? So his initial acquisition cost is going to go down. But you take a month like August where people just aren't buying because there's no inventory, no use, no new car sales, and no confidence. Actually, no matter even if your clicks are doing good and people want your service, it's costing me $100 a car to get someone in. So how do I how do I mitigate that? You can't. You have to just like say, well, let's turn it off.
I remember when I was in the car business, as a GM and everything,
Yeah.
you you start out in the sales side, or if you start in the car business, you learn on the sales floor, and you never could understand why the managers get so mad if you brooming up. We call it brooming. You broom somebody, they were just tire kickers, they're nothing. No, you have to get them in the door because once you get into the GM side, you're learning every person who walks on your lot is $400. So
Hmm.
I need to make that money back. So you better bring them to me and
Yep.
let me close them if you can't.
Yep.
And it so I get it. And it's advertising that's a heck of a game to be in, boy. That's where some money is right there. But if Google, and it's unfortunate, but I understand they're working off their bottom line. They're like, we're growing this bottom line. So guess what? We're going after big businesses. If Google said, maybe during COVID or whatever, we're like, you know what? Why don't we go after small businesses and keep these guys afloat by pumping the snot out of them? I mean, who would have known what would have happened? But I'm listening every day hearing even big chains and little restaurants are closing left and right. I see it all the time. Big
Yeah, you just had
chains.
one up in like Maitland, some sandwich shop I read.
No, but did you hear what happened with them?
No.
So Cappy Subs has been around
Okay.
for 54 years. 54 years.
Cappies, right?
Cappy's,
Cap.
yeah, Cappy's. Best cheesesteaks ever. We'll have to go there sometime.
Yeah.
You don't sit inside because you'll smell like a cheesesteak for the rest of the day.
That's
But
Good.
good.
they announced that they were closing because they could not afford the new lease. And the outpouring of the public. Actually, I'm lying to you. The people weren't going to renew their lease. 54 years. Why would you close the store that's been there for 54 years? But whatever. So the
Yeah.
people were not going to renew their lease of the property, and the outpouring of the public. They literally sold out of food every single day.
And with the last day, it was till at noon they had to shut the
They shut
doors.
the doors at noon, and the people who own the property said, "You know what? We're not gonna do this. We're re-signing the lease." So they're back open.
But you
So
have to realize, though, that's the story that made the public eye. So I told you my friend who runs this sports bar chain. They had a business in the villages, a restaurant in the villages. The business was booming. She said we never missed a rent payment in 15 years. She gets a call. We're tearing down the shopping center and building condos. And you got to be out by December. She says, if I buy the football package, I need to stay till February. It's $12,000. I need to play the Super Bowl. They said, okay, you got 2 weeks to clear out then. So she had to shut her. I mean, all over the place, business is getting just buffaloed.
when
Small
they when
business.
they were booming, how many restaurants did they have?
They were at 26, but they split. But now they're down. They're down to maybe 17 or
I think
18.
that's where
They're
Trippy and I
shutting
met.
them all the
Trippy and I met
time.
at that restaurant. We worked together as restaurant managers
Yeah.
back
I
in
mean,
the
I opened a bunch and I closed a bunch. It was a fun run. But the truth is, small business. So I always use this example of small business just getting killed. Amazon's the example. So Amazon had this drone program that essentially, supposedly, allegedly went nowhere. And now suddenly it's resurfacing. So it's a drone that'll only carry a certain size box. Then, strangely enough, Amazon gets into pharmaceuticals.
Mhm.
Yeah,
And
they do. They do.
literally, and I call this a full-blown conspiracy. So first, Amazon, Warren Buffett, and Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan team up to create a company to insure just their 1 million employees collectively. The whole effort fails, and it was called Haven, and the three of them agreed to just disband the whole effort. But out of nowhere, Amazon gets into pharmaceuticals. So I literally get a prescription. My insurance company that informs me that I have to go through Amazon prescriptions, who just started in business essentially. Suddenly they're in bed with the big, huge insurance companies, Florida Blue. And then I get an email from Amazon. The best way to get your prescriptions is to be a Prime member. And I'm like, what in the hell? And then I realized this drone program carries this little box, which essentially I just put two and two together will carry pharmaceuticals and only pharmaceuticals. But the only thing they talk about is if your dog's in the direction of the box falling, the drone will fly away and come back at another time. Well, that's just great. But the local pharmacies are going to be done for once Amazon gets it all together in the pharmaceutical business. It's going to
Oh
be
yeah.
either CVS, Walgreens, or
You
Amazon.
think so? I
Absolutely.
mean, maybe the mom and pop pharmacies, but I don't know
Yeah, but
Publix
that's
Can
and
what
I
everything
ask a
mom and
rhetorical
pop.
question?
sure.
How is a company like Amazon not the subject of more antitrust?
I I don't understand
Like,
it.
how is that not a monopoly? I mean, I use Amazon fluently more than
My wife
anybody.
made Jeff Bezos rich, I'm telling you.
Oh
I'm
yeah. Oh, absolutely. You are
and
not alone. But
Google just lost their major antitrust lawsuit. They just lost it bigly. I
Bigly.
mean,
Nice.
yeah, yeah, but again, what's the enforcement? What's the repercussion, right? I
I
So
don't
mean,
know.
you
I don't.
I don't know how old you are, Derek. You obviously
38.
okay, so you're a lot
Yeah.
younger than me. When I was a kid, I remember the government stepping in and breaking up
AT&T,
Bell Telephone.
Bell
We
Which
Telephone.
called it Ma
became
Bell, which became AT&T,
right.
but that was the monopoly. Bell was everywhere. So they had to break everything up and it couldn't be just one Bell. It had to be Mountain Bell, Jersey Bell,
Yep.
Pennsylvania Bell.
All the
And
caller IDs, the
yeah,
first caller IDs, like in 2000.
yeah,
Oh,
And right, but it worked. If you look at the technology advances from that day till today, you
but
went from
that was
there
a
would still
cool
be
thing.
landlines if that didn't happen. You would still have a phone, a big giant phone with 11 buttons right here
No,
next
no,
to
I
my.
had the rotary. Anyway,
I mean,
get a
it
horse and
um,
worked.
buggy.
So
I
people are
did. I took a horse and buggy to
anti-government
school.
intervening.
But no, but when they broke up the monopoly, that exploded little telephone companies. They're called CLEX. So they provide telephone service from the pole to the house. And CLEX came out, and then all of a sudden up sprouted in the early 90s because I was in Texas. All these long distance companies. So you would pay your regular phone company for just the line coming to the house, but then you'd get either you'd have cards or you would have a certain company that you'd have to dial a certain number to get out on long distance because they had the best rates. And we were killing it. Like I got in the business actually. I was in it it was called XL Telecommunications. And I would call my friends up and I'd be like, "Hey, how much you paying for long distance a month?" They're like, "Blah blah blah blah." I go, "What if I can cut it in half or save you money?" They're like, "How much does it cost me?" I'm like, "Nothing." They're like, "Sign me up." I mean, it was a no-brainer. Everybody was signing up.
Yep.
And then of course, the cell phone came out. Now,
And
the cell phones they came out in the late 80s, early 90s, but they were like this big and you're like, "Hello," and it cost just to turn the thing on cost $1,000.
I'm not that young. That yes, I understand. I know that. I
Look, I
hope
was
you're
a rock star. I had beepers, man. We were
I always,
we were
I
pimping
had
with beepers.
My first job, a coworker, we all used to make fun of him. His name was Rob Pratt. I actually remember something. He had to leave his car for 2 days at the place to get his cell phone installed.
Oh,
They
did he
had
have a cell phone installed? One of the
yeah,
ones on the
cables
floor?
under the car and under the carpets, and then we all would laugh because he had no friends. And the only thing he would do with his cell phone is on the way from home to work is call us and ask us if he wanted us to pick him up, if he wanted him to pick us up food. And we were like, yeah, he really needed that cell phone for that. Because he was a very straight guy. I was actually the only person that was nice to him, but I would still be a part of
Oh,
laughing
look at
my
you.
ass off every time he'd call.
No, I
But
used to joke around. One of my friend's dads was rich, and he had I remember he had it was either a Mercedes or a BMW. I don't remember. I think it was a Mercedes, and he had one of those cell phones in the center. You had to like click it to get it out, and I'd be in the car jibber jabbing away, and Mr. B'd come out and be like, "No, you're funny, Zach, because you know how much that costs per minute." I'm like, "It's not even on, bro. I'm not using your cell phone."
Status symbol only.
Right. I'm looking like
Hey,
a pimp.
so what is on? There is so much going on this week, right? I mean, I was pissed last week I wasn't on because you got to go over the debate. That's old news, right? But now you got like you've got the second assassination attempt, you've got the Diddy sex trafficking, you've got
What does he need 1,000 bottles of baby oil for? Good Lord.
he's
I
done,
did
right? He's been charged, right?
No, his lawyer said today or yesterday he was you told me. Didn't you tell me, Trippy?
No,
Oh, I thought
he
I don't
had
remember
a
us
either
talking
a
to
bond
you.
or a bail request denied.
But
so
his
he's
lawyer
still
said
out
So
right
he
now.
said his lawyer says he's not guilty. It's all, this is all made up.
of
But
course.
I think Diddy's going to be like the next Epstein. They're scared of him because he's got dirt on everybody. I mean, he had cameras in his house for what, 12 years?
Look how long this took to come to light from the original allegations
When did they
was
raid his house? That was back in,
a while ago.
yeah. I don't think it was last summer, but it wasn't a year ago, but it was pretty far.
Uh, yeah, it was a while, and then it's like, where did that go?
Right. Because he
Now
disappeared.
your mind runs
Did he
wild, and
ran
you're like,
away
oh,
and
I
they
wonder what's going on here. What is the involvement, right? What is
Well,
who's
I feel
the
like every time a story like this breaks, we're talking about Didi and we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. There was a guy named Castro, and he had girls in his basement locked in there for 25
Oh,
years.
in
obviously
Cleveland?
not Fidel.
In Cleveland.
Yeah, in
Oh
Cleveland.
God, that's
And
an
one
awful
girl
story,
broke
man.
out, and then the story broke loose that somebody called the police and said, I saw this blue car drive past them, make a U-turn, and they were off the street, and the police never reacted to the call. And then, so I always felt the police were in on the whole thing because, and maybe even taking advantage of the girls at times because when he was finally charged and like Epstein, he hung himself in prison. It was really strange how it happened. He was unattended for 3 minutes and he managed to put together 20 sheets and hang himself and all that.
We all know the answer to that.
And
Was
and then
Hillary the jailer?
the demolition of the house, they dug out the basement, no less. So the chain of evidence is completely gone, and it's just historically sex trafficking and all this kind of kidnapping and stuff is always surprisingly never solved. And I don't understand it, and it's not just Jeffrey Epstein. Like I said, the guy in Cleveland, I mean, he was no billionaire. He literally had the girls, they broke a board out of the window. He had
Hmm.
Was
nails
that
in
the
the
one
wall.
where the black guy found the girl because he's like, this is weird. A white girl coming up to a black guy. I knew something was wrong. I don't know.
I don't know.
I just anyway, but yeah.
I don't recall that part of the
But here's
story.
here's I'll have to find
Don't
the
work
video.
for
The
Trump and
weirdest
his press
stuff.
secretary because he's in
That's
another.
all you took from that. That is
I
all you
remember the video when they were
They're
interviewing
eating their
people.
dogs. They're eating their cats.
Well,
They're
hey,
eating their
did you see the
pets.
news flash that they're
Well,
eating
dogs
horse
and
now?
cats are pets, sir.
I
Don't
mean, I
fact
saw
check
plenty of
me.
videos, so now I'm not gonna I'm not gonna
Trippy's
vouch
like
on the validity or the accuracy, but all I'm gonna say is I saw a lot of videos. So
Trippy's on
and
the same page as Pierre Jean-Claude Van Damme or whatever her name is. And
What does he say?
Green
She
Jean
said
Pierre,
yeah,
KJP.
KJ.
they kept
I,
her the whole 4 years, though.
I
No,
which
2 years.
is no,
No,
Jen
Psaki
Psaki
was.
was
It's
there.
always 2 and 2, man. Like
Oh, yeah,
for
but
Trump,
everybody thought she.
You had Huckabee Sanders and McEnany, and then for or vice versa, maybe I don't remember. And
Right,
then
right, right.
Psaki,
Yeah.
KJP. So
Who was the blonde with Trump?
McEnany,
She,
Yeah.
Kaylee.
I ain't gonna lie, I liked her a lot.
Do you know, hey, do you
He
know
was
that
sharp.
Trump did Gutfeld today, dude?
Did he
The
really?
Don't you
blogger.
watch Gutfeld, Zach?
That's the guy on the five.
Right.
But he has his own
So
podcast or whatever, his
they
own show.
recorded every day at like 2 p.m. We actually went to a show in New York when we were there last year. But it airs at 10, but Trump was on it today.
That's
I'm not
awesome.
kidding you, which is crazy because that actually is a pretty, I mean, obviously it's extremely conservative, libertarian leaning, humor show, but
Yeah, but
they've had like Bill Maher on there. They've had
well, you know who's Trump was on the other
Charlemagne the
day?
God. It's kind of there are a lot of independents and stuff that watch it, and it does have a nightly viewership over 2 million. So it is one of the top late night stuff. But that's going to be kind of interesting. So I'm gonna watch that tonight.
We're almost at 2
Oh, that's
million.
on tonight.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
I
I
gotta
mean,
follow it.
I know Trippy, you don't get Fox News, but if you can go to the bar, like
Well, no, my TV short circuits. I don't know how that is. It's an anomaly. It's
see when yeah, usually
Very
when I put on some of
balanced.
the big mainstream news,
it's like the old.
Well,
You know,
did
we
you
were
see
talking about
Trump
the
was
old
on?
days when the wind blew and the antenna on the roof went like this. That's what happens every time I turn on Fox News. I
yeah,
don't know.
Did you see Trump was on Theo Von's show?
uh-huh,
He
yep.
did a podcast with Theo,
Well,
which is
Theo wasn't
awesome.
there, yeah,
Or well,
yeah,
yeah, obviously he didn't come to his
obviously.
house.
But Trump
Hey,
was in New
Trump's
York
invited to our.
because Trump had a rally in God, they were in Michigan last night, and then they were outside of New York City in New York tonight
Yeah,
with
but
a
did you see there was a bomb threat there? They found a bomb
I
in a
did not.
car.
No, I did
Yeah,
not.
they found a bomb in a car.
Well, I'm just saying, the
And
guy
here's
that
the
can
funny thing,
secure his
Jeff. I
golf
mean,
course, how's he going to secure the border?
not for
What's
nothing,
that?
Jeff. Yeah,
The guy
well,
that
look, I want to touch on that. So you know I'm coming to that.
the guy that
Touch on
couldn't
it.
secure his golf course couldn't. How's he going to secure the border? I'm just curious.
You know what? That's because the Secret Service or Homeland Security, whoever's protecting him, did a terrible job.
On the golf course too.
How did they not find a dude laying in the weeds for 12 hours?
They
So
probably never thought that anybody
I
would make
think
it.
there's some objective elements to this. One, I mean, there's a bus stop not far from that little opening. It's also, God, I'm losing train of thought on what I heard about it, but I mean that is a known point of access to that perimeter. So
Well, how'd the
not
guy know
only
he's going
that,
to be
because I mean
there?
they did shoot at him from a hole ahead. Okay, so at least the guys who took care of that did their job. But conspiracy theories aside, my biggest interest is how on earth would anyone know he was going to be golfing that morning?
There was only like 3 people who knew, right?
Who who would know other than him or Secret Service?
Maybe JD Vance.
No.
He
No,
didn't
the
know.
staff. I mean, there's a whole staff. Because I happen to
No,
remember.
I think he keeps his golfing like top secret.
No, but let me make this point
There
though.
was
I
a
happen to remember.
term for it, and it wasn't impromptu. It was considered a non-planned, short,
Oh,
impromptu type of thing.
okay.
So whoever did, there wasn't a lot of advance notice.
Because I had a friend that worked at Bethesda, and they would tell everybody when the president was coming, and they would tell everybody at this point you're not going to be able to leave your rooms, and at this time you're gonna be able to leave your rooms, but only for a short period of time, and then at
But
this
it's
time,
his course.
yeah,
I mean, there's a limited amount of agencies that are involved with that. If it's his, and he's not a sitting president.
right.
Right.
So there's a lot of funky stuff that
Well, here's the
just doesn't
curveball.
quite add up, right? And I mean, if you look into this guy, it's really bizarre, right? Because you got right news media reporting this is a crazy liberal guy, Ukraine, all this stuff, which is true. And then he actually voted for Trump in 2016. And then he actually, when COVID hit, he made a donation from the zip code that is Disney property Golden Oak. I'm not kidding you, for $25 to the Democratic Party. It was the Biden campaign. And then in the last few years, he's been on all this X social media and in Ukraine. It's bizarre. Like it just you can't dream this up. You can't come up with these people.
Well,
This wasn't an
here's the next
independently
one.
wealthy guy, and he's just going and he's got all the money and time in the world to be doing all this weird crap. I mean, that's not my budget to be doing that, right? I just it's just something stinks so bad. And I don't care what you are politically, but it just smells.
I agree. And the other
Well,
thing
I
is,
wouldn't
I don't
doubt
know if
it.
you knew that the first attempted assassin and then this attempted assassin both were in BlackRock commercials.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Is
Really?
it,
Yes.
isn't the conspiracy that BlackRock's going to own every single house in the United States by
I heard
2030?
that the other day.
But they own
I
what,
did.
44% right now or
Yes.
something?
They want to buy every house in America and make everybody pay rent.
Well,
So what
mine's not.
happens when you own your own home if it's not even mortgaged? Or are they going to come make you an offer you can't refuse?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, what, look at the precedent. Has there been precedents? They own almost half already. So what happens? I mean, there's got to be precedents. I don't know if any of us can speak on that. I
What
don't know any of them.
I am not educated enough on to speak on that, but why? Why do they want to own all the homes?
Well,
that's the
that's a good
interesting.
business.
But
But
every home in America,
no, I'm just saying single family homes and condos and attached units. I mean, that's a good business to own. I think that's sort of why because Warren Buffett has got about 300 billion cash on hand right now, and I think he's going to start buying up homes and
well, you better
making.
step it up because China's buying everything.
Well, Zach, if someone, I mean, given the how home values have gone in the last couple of years, if someone came and offered you twice as what your value is now, which is probably three times of what it was when you bought it, what would you do?
The question
I
is
mean,
not
think
what would I
about
do?
that,
Where would
right? I
I
mean,
go?
I'm hearing people in Windermere who are like, yeah, I bought my house 10 years ago and I just sold it for four times the value. Not so much in the last year or so when values have been stagnant because of
Don't get
interest,
me
but
wrong. I understand what
crazy.
you're saying, but
It's
because we
nuts.
bought our house in 2016 and we had it appraised in 2021, maybe, or 20. I don't, whenever we were at the top of the bubble, and it went up three times what we bought it for.
Oh yeah.
So did I want to sell it? Of course, but then
Where'd
reality
he
kicked
go?
in. Where do I go? Yeah,
And
I'm gonna.
you don't even want to rent in Florida because there's no cap on rental increase. I mean, look at what happened in the COVID years, 21. I think it was, sorry if I misspeak, if it's either 20 to 21 or 21 to 22, but Miami rent prices went up 52%, 44% in Tampa, and 38% in Orlando. We're talking 1 year, okay? So 38% on $1,000 is a 1380.
Yeah, that's what they went up. That's
I
my
mean,
Yeah,
that's
friends told
1
me.
year. So bring it back to the point here. Now, someone gives you a too good offer to refuse to buy your house in Florida. Okay, maybe I'll take it, but and maybe we'll go rent, but it ain't gonna be here.
yeah. Where you
I'm
right? But
leaving,
where
man.
are you gonna go? Florida. When I
Freaking
moved to Florida in
somewhere
'95,
else.
when I moved to Florida in 1995, it was like paradise for somebody from up north
Mhm.
because I was used to houses being redonkulous. Regular home in New Jersey. I mean, my mom sold her house that I grew up in, which was not any. We didn't live in any mansion or anything. We lived in a nice four-bedroom, two and a half bath, 2-story colonial with a basement and all this other stuff. She sold it
Sure.
for almost 900 grand, and she thought that was an okay deal. Well, imagine I sell my house for 900 grand. In 95, I could have moved to Florida and bought 9 homes,
Yep.
because they were selling for, I mean, I bought my first home. I bought in Altamont Springs in a gated community. It's not gated, but and the backside's gated, the front isn't. But anyway, I lived in a nice cul-de-sac and everything. I bought my house. It'd been on the market for 2 years. It was a rental and they couldn't sell it. My dad came in and me and him beat the guy up and we bought the house for 100 grand. And it was 2,000 square foot, 4 bedroom, 3 bath, great neighborhood, great house. Needed a little work here and there, whatever. And last time I saw it was selling for close to five.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just Florida is not the place to live anymore. Actually, funny story. I lived in Texas and I moved here, and my best friend stayed in Texas. He's a doctor there. And he says the best place to buy right now is Oklahoma. And you could buy McMansions there for pennies on the dollar. And I'm like,
It's a lot less expensive
but
than
who
here.
wants to live in Oklahoma?
Not
you
many
know,
people. I mean, I was in Oklahoma City like I want to say 3 years ago, and I mean, man, a son of a friend had it wasn't big. It was like 1,800 square feet, but all brick home, brand new neighborhood. Maybe 5 years old, and I bet
right,
that thing was like a buck 30 or something, or crazy
Wow.
something where like if you were here, it'd be like, oh, it's 600 grand.
right.
It's pretty. Don't take my numbers to the bank, but it's pretty drastic.
Sure. And so, I mean, but you have that option. Now try and convince my beloved to move to Oklahoma. That's not going to happen. So I guess we're staying in Florida. I don't know what I would do if someone came up to my house and said, "Hey, we'll give you 700 grand for your house." I would,
Take it, bye.
yeah. Hey, mom, can I come live
Do
with you for a little while? It's me
Hey,
and the
why not,
dogs.
man?
We're coming
No
home.
worries, no problems.
We're coming up to Pennsylvania. No, it just so we had the second assassination attempt, which the left is saying was Trump's fault. He's bringing it on because he's talking about they're eating dogs and cats.
What do you feel about that, Trippy? The fact that you've got a former president shot at twice, but we got to make sure he's not a threat to anybody. Isn't that kind of weird? Do we
Well,
really
they're
got to
talking
say
about
it
two
that
different
way?
threats.
And why is it
So
always threat to democracy? We're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic, okay? A democratic constitution. It's always this threat to dem like I get it. Like there's got to be an underlying theme and rhetoric in I guess for lack of a better term, a theme to the campaign. But it's just how does anyone logically say this guy gets shot at two separate times? So please stop being such a threat to people.
well, there's two different thoughts to that. The
Come
threat
on,
to
man.
democracy and the thought and the theme it comes, which Zach's going to argue, but let me just finish my point. That's
Yeah.
based on January 6th.
Come on,
Yeah.
Jack.
Okay.
Here we
So,
go.
so here, okay, that's why I said Zach just can't win. Here's the thing, okay? Circumstantial evidence. You go out to your car, you see raindrops on your car, you know it rained. It's not raining right now, but you can assume it rained earlier. So there was call logs subpoenaed at the White House. They claimed executive privilege, so they went in the opposite direction and they asked certain Proud Boys and certain Oath Keepers, "Can we have your call records?" Those were not kept under executive privilege, and there was direct calls to the president and to his chief of staff, whose name I now forget. But
Corey Levendale. No, it wasn't him. He was campaigning.
no, it was
Doesn't matter.
it doesn't matter. So there is evidence. Then there was a January 6th committee. Whether you like Liz Cheney or not, the idea of it was a bipartisan committee. A dedicated Republican up until the point she became a rhino or hated by all Republicans. But at the time she was appointed to the committee, she was known to be a staunch Republican. So it was meant to be a bipartisan committee, just like the 9/11 Commission. They presented where Trump was directly involved in bringing to Washington D.C. that riot. I don't believe Trump instructed them to break into federal buildings, and I've heard the theory, especially from Zach, that they're our
Because he
buildings.
didn't.
No, but it went wild.
They are our
And
buildings.
then came the argument. Now there's literally a lady with a hatchet breaking into a federal building window. That's an issue. So whenever I visited the White House, there's fences. There's you would even just to see the area where visitors are allowed is very secure. So the issue of January 6th is where the premise of him being a threat to democracy came from. Him being shot twice, there's the theories, but there is no hardcore evidence that this is Democrats sponsoring these shooters.
Oh, I'm not even saying that. I'm not getting into that because regardless of your gut says that's true or not, that's not even the concept. It's just the concept that the person who gets shot at is not the one shooting the bullets. I mean, in January
No.
6th, everyone has their opinion on it, and that's all fine and dandy. But all I saw there is a committee that was wasting my tax dollars, honestly, because at the end of the day, when you looked at the damage, people to people, what happened there, what those people did versus what goes on every day here with violent crime, um, terribly funded government programs, and just horrible enforcement by district attorneys with just horrible things. It's like, I got to be honest with you. Some guy shoots and kills someone in New York and he's on the street in a week, and we're spending bajillions of dollars talking about people that did, granted, a really stupid thing, right? I mean, I'm not saying that this is good for them, blah, 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 blah. But where are our priorities? It's ridiculous. And just to watch this charade parade back and forth it just made me sick. It's like, you know what? I vote and I don't want you doing this. Just get out. Like, well, he said that, said he. No, he did not tell them to do that. You can argue back and forth all day long, what he should have done.
No, but I didn't say that. I just said
There was an element of National Guard that was not accepted and approved by yours truly, Speaker of the House. And here we are, and we had a really stupid event. But the only person who died was actually one of the people on the offensive, if you want to call it that. And then you have all of this other violent crime that's not prosecuted or dealt with every day, and no one wants to talk about it because it's intentional. And that's to me, that's what the bigger deal is. And at the end of the day, I agree with this, I agree with that, or you like these policies. I just look at where I wasn't, how that 4 years was for me, or where I felt we were going versus how the 4 years has been for me and where I feel we're going. And to me, it's really easy. It's like, okay. And they've both been president, and and he's left office, right? Oh, he'll never leave. He left. He left.
Yeah,
Um,
he didn't become a dictator like everybody said he was
he
going to
could
be.
No,
he wanted to contest things, and he was very vocal about that. But at the end of the day, he left, and he's not in.
so I think, I kind of try to cover everything we're covering here. He did
Yep.
contest things. He brought 60 cases to the courts. They were
Yep.
all, he lost every one
Yep.
to a very, he lost everyone, and whatever made it to the Supreme Court, all 60 did not. I'm not trying to say that, but whatever it
Sure.
did, he lost those.
Sure.
He elected three conservative judges.
Mhm.
Even the two conservative judges who he didn't elect, that are more conservative than the ones he did elect, and that's Daniel Alito and Clarence Thomas, never saw it his way. So the argument of the election being skewed is just, in my eyes, it's just, it's not. It's got, I keep telling Zach, it's the same margin of error as every other election process.
Well,
I've
I'm
seen,
going to say three things. Number one, everyone saw a lot of video that was not right. Okay. Let's put that aside. Number two, 81 million people didn't vote for Biden. They voted against Trump.
right.
And number three, why I say that is if you go back like 100 years and you look election year over election year over election year and total voting as a percentage, how it goes up and the excitement of candidates, how many counties people won, and you look at like Obama's, was it his second term or whatever one he got the more enthusiasm was what, 68 million votes, okay? The greatest election to election swing in terms of overall populist vote increasing was not much more than 5%. So now you're going to somehow tell me, and I'm forget conspiracy theory, but just explain to me just this, how a guy can win with 72 million votes, which is crazy. That's a spike. And they get 75 and lose to a guy with 81, which is like a 20% win spike that no one even wants to vote for. They just don't like the other guy. Now, maybe the answer is that many people truly hate him.
Well, you're not elected
But
by
that is
popular.
statistically freaking impossible.
It's not because you're not elected by the popular vote. You're elected by the Electoral College, and that's why they play the game they play.
Yeah.
So, for example, you'll never see Kamala Harris campaign in Texas. She's got to get to 270. She doesn't have to win the popular vote.
Right.
She's got to win Pennsylvania.
Right.
She
Right.
probably has to win something like Michigan or Arizona. But it's not people she has to win. She has to win certain states, certain people.
In actually certain districts. Yeah.
And then comes the argument, well, then the Electoral College is flawed. Well, then it's if the president is elected by popular vote, well, then California will elect every president from here moving forward. So
Right.
then
Right. No, I don't believe the Electoral College is flawed, but I do
no,
believe
but
statistically the numbers
so
I saw last time were not statistically possible.
so like you said, to give your point extreme validity, I've never thought a president has won election. I've always thought a candidate has lost the election. So Hillary
Right.
Clinton lost to Donald Trump.
Right.
Donald Trump lost to Joe Biden. He lost. And here's what I'm going to say about that. It was Lindsey Graham who I will quote. You fucked up your presidency. There wasn't much he had to do to win the next election. It doesn't take much for an incumbent to win the presidency. And there's only two in recent years, well, two in recent years and three in the longest time. Jimmy Carter, George Bush Sr., and Donald Trump. Donald Trump's loss was based on his handling of COVID. So instead of him acting like a childish fool when Fauci was on the podium, he should have said, I have no respect or I don't believe in Fauci's word. I can't fire him because it can't be done. He's not as
So I
fireable.
am actually going to pause you right there and agree with you in terms of the way those things were communicated. Because
Right.
there was a point during that time. And I don't think from a policy standpoint, Trump handled COVID. I think he handled it good from that standpoint, right?
And
There's the
he
spending and
developed
the
a
fraud and the
vaccine.
rhetoric. I understand that stuff. But what I'm saying is there was a period in time where I'm like, please just don't say anything. You'll get reelected. Just don't talk today. And,
Or
and, and,
taking
and, and what sucks
Or
is
tweet.
that, policy wise from a small business owner, those are the policies that help me. And now I have people voting on feeling and rhetoric and ways we communicate. And I understand they affect things, but everyone just has to say, what is candidate A's policies? What is candidate B's policies? Which candidate's policies help my family? Treat it like the hand of the marketplace, like Adam Smith, and please vote for those policies that will help your family, or at least that you believe will help your family, and everything will be good.
And
We can still go on and not agree, and
I
that's okay.
thoroughly agree with you on that, because I really believe right now, listening to the younger generation, even younger than you, 18 to 24, they are voting specifically on feeling. They have no
I
knowledge of
think it's,
policy.
I don't,
Let me take it back a notch whenever you guys are ready. Tell me when you're ready. Okay.
I'm fine.
As far as voting on feeling, my feeling is Trump could have easily gotten reelected. The only point I was going to make to that is in saying we don't have faith in Fauci. Myself and my administration don't have faith in Fauci because COVID was the deciding factor in the way he handled COVID.
But the sad thing was COVID
Yep.
was
Hang
only
on, let me
9
make this point.
months.
All he
9
had to do
months.
was say, I'm hiring a COVID liaison. He's who I'm going to do my COVID press conferences with. He's who's going to provide you the information. And the reason I say that is just because it's a matter of sharing best practices. So we had the same example in 2 states doing the exact opposite thing. We had Florida and California with 2 of the same major businesses as well. And our governor conveyed a message that this is how we're going to handle COVID and this is why. And a part of the message was there's people in New York who are staying home and getting infected because of the recycled air in these big buildings. So we're no longer going to order you to stay home. We're going to pause any COVID caution and open the state.
So
And
you actually, so you actually liked DeSantis's policies
for
during
opening the state. Yeah.
prior to the let's get in a bunch of drama with Disney just to do it. And
It,
let's run for
he,
president because I'm popular. We loved him till then, and that's when it kind of was like, dude,
he
stop.
opened the state and it worked for me. I was directly in the restaurant business. I
Yeah,
liked the decision.
right,
But it
right.
doesn't take one decision to make you a great governor, and it doesn't make you a great governor to be the governor of an easy state to be great at being governing. So, but he did get that. He did get that point across very well.
Yeah.
And if Trump would have took him as an example and said, "We're going to reopen America, and here's why," I engaged in the War Powers Act to develop a vaccine. Take it if you want, though. Take it if you don't want. But it works. It worked for me. I even got a treatment for my COVID that the church is absolutely said they do not want you to have because it's made of stem cells. It worked for me. Convey some message, and he would have been reelected. But COVID was the deciding factor. So the election deniers are saying, how can you say he lost the election when he won the popular vote? Is simple. Biden played the electoral college game to the
Well, he
point
didn't win the popular vote.
he didn't, but he
That's
did.
only thing as I'm saying is statistically to go from a excited 72 million to 81 year over year statistically has never happened, and you have the most uninspiring candidate on the Democratic Party like
Back then
a
he was
very,
more
very long
inspired.
time. And so all I'm saying is, regardless, I don't believe that count was 81. I believe it was much, much lower. But regardless, he won, and I think it's a fair statement from either side to say those were votes against Trump much more than they were votes for Biden.
I've always believed no president has won an election. Other than Ronald Reagan in his second term, no president has won an election. Every candidate.
I was going to ask you about Reagan versus
Oh,
Mondale. So
Bush Jr. I mean, he had the highest approval rating after 9/11 of anyone ever. I mean,
Right, but it didn't last into the election year. 9/11
I mean,
was.
it wasn't that far off. It was still high. It was still like 60s,
But
man.
Bush Sr. had a 92 or a 93 approval rating after the Iraq invasion because it went so well, allegedly. And he made it clear this will not be another Vietnam War. And all he was basing that on is Vietnam was such an unpopular war because it was the first time war was televised. So he
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
making it clear that
Yep.
it ain't going to be televised like before. We're not going to see soldiers with napalm getting hit by napalm or civilians getting hit by napalm. What we're going to see is really neat bombs going down chimneys perfectly like they're supposed to. And we're not going to see is the bricks flying off and hitting an old lady across the street.
Right.
So there's a lot of the same thing for Trump. There's a lot of learning from your mistakes and sharing best practices. But to ask how he lost, I say Lindsey Graham phrased it best when I said what I said. He told Trump in a private phone call that Trump acknowledged you effed up your presidency. It's not hard for an incumbent to get reelected. It's the main thing it takes. And the only incumbent that wouldn't have got elected again in this cycle was Biden. But he played that. His team has no foresight. His team has no understanding of how the Democrats are going to play him, and that's him and his illiteracy and his incompetency, and it's his team's illiteracy and incompetency to not see that coming. If anybody thought the Democratic Party, the hierarchy, the curia, as I call it, an example of the church, is going to allow Biden to go the whole cycle of this election process, I think it was all pre-planned.
Oh
Throw
yeah.
Trump off his
Oh
game
yeah.
and then get a candidate who Karl Rove 12 years ago said she's the one you need to look out for. Nobody else in the Democratic Party, even before John F. Kennedy died, Karl Rove was saying, be careful of Kamala Harris. She's the one you need to look out for. And
She's the
so
best. She's the best puppet for the job, man.
she's done a great job of being whatever she is. But the fact of the matter is, and so if there's if there's election deniers when she wins, if she wins, they're fooling themselves and they're creating the riots in their head. They're letting Trump's live. Trump is the greatest squatter of all time. He lives in more people's heads rent free than anybody in history of the world.
Yeah.
And most of those people is
yeah,
the liberals.
no,
I think he
Oh,
lives in everyone's head.
they
I think he
said
lives
his
in
name
everyone's
more
head.
times at the
they
DNC.
do. And it's the Howard Stern effect. It was the same thing. The people that hated him watched him more and talked about him more, and they're the ones that made him famous.
You know how I felt after that first assassination attempt when he came out the first night at the RNC and he was really somber and very thankful and very policy driven. I thought, that's the ticket, man. You got it. It's just I'm not sure. I know why he elaborates and cycles and loops and engages the way he does, but just like we saw after COVID, it works against him in terms of independent, popular swing, all that type of stuff. Where if he was very focused, policy driven, I think he would, people would slowly start to like not let that personality dictate how they wanted to vote, if that makes sense.
If he wanted to
Especially like
go,
when RFK came out and like he came out and I'm like, oh boy, I don't know if this is going to be good or bad for. And no one said anything about this, but the key factor was who his VP pick was, and she was actually extremely progressive. So I'm like, oh, that's going to be good for Trump. People on the fence are going to be like, hey. And then he came out and supported him, and then Trump got shot, and all these things happened, and I was like, okay, all Trump's got to do is just somberly preach policy, and I think he's got this one, and especially with Biden, it would have been. I mean, if you put those factors in the bag, right? Biden running after that debate, Trump being somber, policy driven, and RFK supporting Trump, it would have been a wipe.
Okay,
But
I'll tell you what I will tell you what would have done the job correctly. And this is what I always say. The thing that made Ronald Reagan great was when he got shot. Because prior to him getting shot, he was a drunk puppy walking around the Rose Garden asking Nancy and talking about giving the Russians our nuclear secrets and our space secrets and our this and that. But after Reagan got shot, he didn't go to a political rally. He went to Congress. And Trump should have went to Mike Johnson and said, let me speak to Congress tomorrow. Not a political rally that he loves, that he knew after being shot would show up with 70,000. If he went to Congress and spoke about making
easy,
America
don't have a
work
stroke there,
together,
buddy.
making America work together again, he would have got the resounding applause like Ronald Reagan got when he went to Congress after getting. There was a bipartisan standing ovation. Everybody stood up and clapped.
Well, that's because your opponent's disarmed because you can't really not applaud a guy who just got shot.
Well, you can if the first thing he does is go to a political rally.
No, I'm saying if he takes that route, if he goes to Congress, right? I mean, your AOC, Trump.
Okay, but it would have worked. And
No. I'm saying I'm supporting you. I'm saying if he went to Congress,
but he doesn't do that.
you can't be AOC that
say?
hates you because the guy just got shot. Like at least you have to just stand there somberly and listen.
Right, just like you said, exactly what you said. But you don't do it at a rally. You don't do it at the RNC. You go to Congress. You talk to the lawmakers that your guys are bashing every day, and you say, let's just join hands and sing Kumbaya. I just got shot. I just took a bullet for America. I blew my whole business load on America. I could have stayed and played golf every day, but I decided to run for president and do it all for America. Make a speech like that, and he would have had this campaign no matter who
in the bag.
in the bag. But no, he's Donald Trump. He got shot. He got to do a rally. And that rally's going to have not 70,000 people. It's going to have 80,000 people. Even though there's no way of counting it, he'll say it's 90,000
Zach
people.
was there.
Well, Zach was 90,001. But he
You know
doesn't
that's
do
right.
Zach's
that.
back.
You know
Yeah.
that's right, baby.
So for me to quote Lindsey Graham, Mr. Trump, you fucked up your campaign. And it's going to bite him in the ass because he could have shared best practice again, but he didn't. He did it his way. And he rehired Corey Lewinsky, who coined the phrase, let Trump be Trump. Well, everything Trump is failing at is Trump being Trump.
Didn't he fire Corey Lewandowski before he?
Yeah, he fired him. Now he's bringing him back. And I don't understand that because he's the guy that fires people. So he fired John Kelly. That's why John Kelly talks bad about
Well, at
me.
least he fires someone.
Well,
he
he does.
get back on the political moderate here and say, hey, there's a few people that could go in this current administration. I think we'd all be better off.
This current administration isn't going to move a finger. They're going to let Kamala be the candidate and Biden be the president. And it doesn't. You've got 50 days for a recession, this country not to fall into a deep, deep recession. You got the feds that just cut the interest rate. We were talking about how it's affecting everyone. Yep. They just cut the interest rate.
So you thinking the interest rate getting cut is a good thing?
There's a good and bad element to it.
It's a good and bad element. It could drive up inflation if money's cheaper, but there's a good and bad element. And it goes
but is a 0.5%?
Yeah, that's significant.
That moves the needle.
Could it slam it up high?
Well, they haven't touched in 2 years, and usually it's a quarter when they do. So
and it's usually a quarter, exactly. And you know why? Because Biden has a direct line to the feds, whereas Trump, I'm sure, never even knew the phone number. So he didn't even know how to play the game. And anytime
we didn't have inflation under Trump.
We didn't have an inflation. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like I always say, and everybody disagrees, man, we were in deflation. We were in a country that was in deflation, which is even worse than inflation because warehouses were producing products they couldn't even put on trucks anymore and get to stores anymore because everything was full. And it was the same thing with fuel. There was ships out at sea that had nowhere to unload. There was refineries that couldn't process the fuel they had sitting there for 2 weeks. So prices dropped dramatically.
I think you're talking about during COVID, which was the last 9 months.
Huh?
I said, I think you were talking about during COVID, which was the last 9 months of his presidency.
No, we were in a deflation when the country shut down. And again,
during COVID. Right. That's what I'm saying. That's why they had over everything.
It was a way to handle COVID. And even if he went against all odds, if he would have handled it like a grown adult, he would have been the victor in his reelection bid.
Okay. 2 questions. Do you think if he had done one of 2 things, either said, all right, the COVID situation is up to each individual state, you guys handle it, or should he have just made like, this is the way it is across the boards? Which would have won? Which would have been a better way?
What I would have said, and I don't know if this will answer your question, I'm not into indoctrination. I think the vaccine works. I'm the president. I've gotten the vaccine. You make your decision. But we're stopping all mandates. I'm going to do whatever I can via executive order or legislation to stop all mandates. And I'm going to hire a guy that's going to convey a message that I approve of about COVID. I'm not going to stand here on the podium with a guy that I don't believe in and laugh when he says something I don't believe in it like a 6-year-old child. And I think that would have made a big difference in his presidency.
Now, when it comes to the vaccine, who shoved that down our throats?
Well, but again, Trump developed it.
I don't
so
think
it
Trump
wouldn't have been shoved down. It wouldn't even been if it wasn't in place, it couldn't have been shoved down our throats.
But who went overboard with it? And it still is going overboard.
The Democratic
See, the problem with all these conversations is they're all in hindsight, right? It couldn't have been shoved down our throat if Trump didn't develop it. Well, if Trump didn't develop it, wouldn't the backlash be worse, right?
I appreciate the fact that he developed it.
He didn't care. Well, okay, so let's just, you know what I'm saying? Take things objectively. Like a lot of this, what would you have done in the first 3 months? Well, no one would have done the right thing because it was totally unprecedented.
Absolutely not.
I totally understand the initial shutdowns. We don't even know what we're dealing with.
Right.
We never dealt with anything like it before.
We kind of got a handle on what we were doing, had an idea for a game plan. You can't just lock in your loss and kill there was a point where it came where a lot of, even elderly people were like, I'd rather die from COVID than never see my family again and die alone in my room.
Right.
And who is the governor?
Are we at a point here of diminishing return where the risk is actually lesser than the risk of not returning to somewhat. I mean, and hey, if you have underlying conditions and you have risk and you're able to stay home, absolutely, for sure. Put sanitizer at all, like uh, buffets, right? I mean, put sanitizer at the buffet. That's a great thing. Like they do that in Europe, they do that in other countries. Like that, there's a few, not many, but a few things that were great that developed out of COVID. Like you should have to wash your hands. I mean, you see all the people that eat crap off the floor and lick their hands in public places and eat stuff off. That's stupid. That's how you get that, right? But I mean, if you do some really basic, use your brain hygienic things, you can really conquer a lot. I'm not saying the world's going to be perfect, but wash your dang hands. Don't sneeze on me. Um, just give me a little space. Stop spitting in me. And and then beyond that, I think I can get over it and figure out a way.
But isn't that what
don't
Ron
eat your
I
neighbors.
think all this handler stuff is very hindsight, right?
but isn't
Don't eat
that what
your
Ron
hey, but make
DeSantis
sure you
did?
don't eat your neighbor's cat.
That's what Ron DeSantis did.
Right.
Exactly that. You walked into a restaurant and you saw half the chairs stacked in the corner of the restaurant because there was tables being you could only sit at every other table.
Sure.
And that's what
I
Ron
remember we went
DeSantis
to
did.
concerts. We talked about this when I went to the
Yes.
Dr. Phillips Center. The concerts were outside, and we were in little booths where it was four to a booth. And
And you had to wear a mask outside? No, not here.
no, I didn't wear it.
No.
You
They
had
But it
to
did
was
say,
serious.
when Disney Springs
Circles.
first opened in May of 2020, you had to wear a mask outside. So it's like, dude, it's 95. I'm not doing this. I'm gonna walk around with a drink. Hey, I'm sorry, man. I'm having a drink.
I like
Right. But
Lorianne and I
remember the mask
flew.
outside.
remember the mask that actually had a small hole and you lifted the lid and you could put your straw in the hole into your mouth? And it was
I
mask.
just was never that into it, Trippy. I always tried not to wear my
I
mask.
saw people. I didn't
I
wear
know.
them.
Come on, Trippy.
Trippy had
I
like 30 hand knit
You
like
got
branded
me. I
apparel
still
masks.
have it right here. I've been using it all week.
No, Lorianne and I flew up to Chicago for a wedding during COVID, and first of all, we were like ostracized. It was her best friend's wedding, and everybody knew we weren't vaccinated. And they're Chicago's a different world up
Just
there.
say I'm from Florida. I've had it 4 times already. I'm good.
Exactly. I've had it three
True.
times actually.
I've never had it. My wife
No,
had it really bad.
We didn't get it till we moved here, and we got every single variation of Omicron over the course of like a 3, 4, or whatever, how many month period that they were.
Never
Every
got
the
it.
one.
first I got it at the end of 2020. Hit me like a ton of bricks. I slept for like 10 days straight. I mean,
The
I
first ones
wasn't
were
sick.
like
I was just
serious.
exhausted, just
Yeah.
wiped out. It didn't affect me like physically breathing or anything like that. Like everybody was terrified of, you're gonna anyway. And then the second time it was a headache and a sore throat, and then the third time was the flu, basically. But
Well,
anyway,
in
we
theory,
flew up to Chicago, and you had to wear your mask on the plane. First of all, you should
Yeah.
wear a mask on a plane. Back from 1970, you probably should wear a mask because that's nasty air in that plane. But so we had
Not
to wear a
today's
mask,
planes. That's the cleanest air in the frickin'. I mean, that's a medical room grade air. I mean,
allegedly.
I think the way people breathe and
You could
frickin' sneeze
smell
on you is
people's breath in
disgusting.
there. Yeah.
But in terms of the recycled the air cabin quality, it's actually one of the best. That's what the executive said. Is like this
but that was
ridiculous.
the issue in New York is in the
So,
buildings
but
that they're
what
all
I was saying is
horribly
we
remote.
flew up and I did exactly what you said at Disney Springs. I sat there with my mask down and I had a soda in front of me the whole flight. I never put it down, never put my mask on.
Had the straw in your mouth.
He's sleeping like he's got a camelback on.
So, I was one of those guys though. I was a really look, I was in the industry. This is prior to the fence industry. I was in the moving industry and we were
Yeah,
considered essential. So we were allowed to work.
yeah.
And every customer's house, when I walked up to the front door, I'd say, "How you doing? I'm here to do your survey for your moving. I have a mask. Would you like me to wear it?" And I would say 95% of my customers, nah, don't worry about it. We're good. The elderly always said yes, which is fine. I was not offended by that. It's your
I
house. I'm
think
going to
some people
respect you.
wanted you to and were like scared to say not to.
I had one lady complain because
I
she said
never
I didn't
really wore
offer,
a
and I
mask. I hate them.
I
you had
hate
to wear it at
masks.
the restaurant, didn't you?
I cleaned out my
No,
bag. I cleaned out my backpack like a week ago, and I found one. I was like, I wanted to like blow it up. I'm like, this is the worst memory.
You should
It
have put it
was.
on. You should have put it on Instagram as a
Oh,
memory.
we
Hey,
had a
look,
good
look what I
time. I mean,
found.
I should have wore it. I should have wore it tonight.
we
You
had a
guys.
great time though. We were riding bikes every day, and kites
My
and
wife and I,
football.
like everybody was getting the COVID weight gain, you know?
Oh yeah.
Lorianne and I actually lost weight during COVID. We walked every day around the park
Right.
by
I
our
was just gonna
house.
say we lost
I
weight.
mean, and one of the things that I realized, I talked to a lot of doctors. I have friends who are doctors, holistic and functional and regular. And everybody said the best thing to do is get outside and breathe, breathe the air.
They're saying
Unless,
there's still
unless of
effects.
course you lived in Minnesota under Tim Waltz, and then you got shot at by rubber
Oh,
bullets.
Yeah, then
temple.
you can't go outside. So
Can't go outside.
No, you
I wish,
can't.
I wish, oh, oh,
Trippy wants to live in Minneapolis.
he
I
does.
want to live in where was it now? I have a fascination with. Well, Detroit's one place.
Detroit.
You want to live in Detroit,
Have
dude?
you been to
Yeah.
Detroit?
Have you ever been to Detroit?
So now, have you ever seen the movie Batman? Well, there. Okay, so make a long story
No,
short.
because I used to go to Detroit, and Detroit sucks. Oh, wait.
Listen
Time
to
out.
this.
Detroit was awesome until about the late 90s, and then
Okay, it's
since then
coming
Detroit
back
has
though.
sucked.
So
No,
You
it's
could
that's
buy,
where
you
it's
you
could buy
coming
have.
back.
property. You could buy
It's a bunch
property
of
in
yuppie
Detroit.
bars and
Yeah.
crappy burnout. It's junk.
No, because that movie Batman, this train station comes blowed up and all crumbling down. Well, that's in Detroit. Well, now that's Ford Motor Company Center for Automation and Technology, Corktown. It's coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, and they redid the Union Station and
Yeah,
stuff. And
yeah. I want to live there.
no, you don't, dude.
I heard it's really neat. And
No,
then
it's
It's really
not.
neat
It's
if you
it's really
want to
not.
not
and
live.
it's got and somewhere around there within an hour's drive is Frankenmuth. Is
Yeah, Frankenmuth is awesome. You need to go to Frankenmuth. Like even in the summer, it's fun.
yeah.
'Cause they'll do like a Bavarian they'll do Oktoberfest
We
there.
were just in LJ, Georgia, and we were in a German town, and it was
Go
amazing.
go to Frankenmuth in the summer when it sucks here. No,
I've
seriously, go like
done it,
July
right.
4th, man. It's a blast.
Speaking
I
of
have to
my,
tell
you
my wife
know,
she does all the things.
my buddy lives in Michigan, and he lives right by the what is it, the Mackinac Bridge,
Mackinac Island is awesome in the summer.
which is the Upper Peninsula, but you got to go over that bridge.
It's sort of it's between, yeah.
What's that bridge though that is like
Mackinac
horrifyingly?
Bridge.
Oh,
It's
that
the longest suspension bridge. I swear it's 5 miles long.
a
What's a
car blew off of it.
Well, yeah, cars can blow off of it, dude. It's 5 miles long. It's like that was built in the 50s too. That's like one of the modern engineering marvels of all
I'm
time.
not going across it.
I've
And
been
now
across it.
probably
They do like a Labor Day run across it, man. It's sweet.
Really?
Yeah.
It's a great bridge too, right? It's graded, like it's not
Yeah.
asphalt. It's yeah,
Right.
great, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like you're driving over chain links.
Right, like my friends say they used to ride their motorcycle over it, and it's like, whoa, 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 like they get all, yeah.
No, I'm all anti-Michigan everything, but there are places in Michigan in the summer that are unbeatable.
I
right.
wa-
I'm
I
like,
I
no.
100% agree. I'm
But
the
it's
same
not
way.
Detroit trippy. It would be Frankenmuth, it'd be Mackinac Island, it'd be
But
the
I want to
little
see Corktown. I
like
want to see
Sleeping
what
Bear
they think.
Dunes. No, you don't. It's crap. You can go like the Northwest lower, and there's. I
I've
mean, yeah,
never.
go ahead. They need more of you there, I guess. I mean, they need
I'm
something
not
there.
moving. I'm
They need
never.
more bodies. So
Maybe I could sell my house for $1 million to
yeah,
Blackstone.
you could buy one there for 50 grand.
You could buy a whole street block there for 50 grand.
You could buy a street lot.
Every house
So
on.
I
Uh,
actually I dated a girl in high school who was from Grosse Pointe Shores.
well, that's the nice part of Detroit.
Yes. That's where all like the Fords live and or used to
No, the
or whatever.
suburbs, the Detroit suburbs are actually extremely wealthy. Birmingham and all the Rochester Hills, Brighton, and that's because that's all like the tier one automotive, executives making six figures, and that's. I'm just talking downtown is crap, but they have this little yuppie revival where who's the guy who owns Little Caesars, whatever, but they have the arena
Oh,
there, and they have all the bars they're building and for, and that's cool, but in
Is that
general,
is
like.
that where's the Pistons and the Red Wings play, right?
Well, the
yeah,
Pistons
Red
used to
Wings for
play out in
sure.
Auburn Hills, but now they play downtown. Yeah,
Yeah, because they redid the whole stadium, didn't they?
they moved it. They closed down the Palace of Auburn Hills. That Palace of Auburn Hills was back in the day.
Is that where you used to go to all the concerts back in the day and everything?
My grandpa owned a manufacturing company, and our steel suppliers, since we were a pretty good top customer of theirs, they had season suite tickets on the lowest
Nice.
level suite at center court with
Wow.
with seats behind the visitors bench. So I saw Grant Hill's first triple double. I saw Shaq and Anthony Hardaway when they came to town, sat right behind them. But they sucked back then too. It was like post Bad Boy era. So we only got to
They
see a
were playing
couple
for the
of
Magic then, right?
Huh?
They were playing for the Magic then, correct?
Ooh.
Shaq and
Yeah. I'm talking like 94, man, like when the
oh
Magic
yeah,
was awesome and
the
really
tragic.
long time ago. That's when all that area, that's when Detroit, Motor City, frickin' Auburn, that's when it was bumping, man. And
That's
then
where
and
you.
then kind
That's
of
where
you
your
had a lot
buddy
of
Eminem and Kid Rock are from.
yep,
Yeah,
yep.
I like Kid Rock. I'm not an Eminem
He
fan.
You
built a
like Kid
house. Did
Rock?
Yeah,
did Kid Rock
I think
not
he's
build a
cool.
house outside of Detroit that looks like the White House?
I think he's cool.
I don't know.
That's
I'm
somebody.
Kid Rock
I
money.
saw a video. He built like one that's a replica of the White House.
Trippy likes Kid Rock.
I like
Yes.
Kid Rock. I think he's
You?
cool. I do. Why is
Wow.
that shocking?
And with that, because they're just so polar opposite. That's awesome. No, I like it's a pleasant surprise.
I like Kid Rock. I like it.
He is an
Zach
extreme.
presents me as an absolute liberal, and I say I'm center right. I got a good view
I
on.
do it to bring ratings to the show, Trippy. Come on,
I know we need
we
ratings.
gotta keep the
I think
crowd happy.
we're
They need
definitely
the great conservative and the libetard,
diehard
the
libertarian.
Yeah.
diehard libetard. No,
Anyway,
listen. I see a lot of cities such as Detroit that are trying to gentrify. Orlando's doing it in a big way. I'm in Orlando all day long. That's my territory, and there are some neighborhoods that I think a couple of years ago I probably would have never drove in, and now that's my territory. I go there all the time. It's not a bad gig, you know. Do you think we will ever change that because of the president? No, I think the communities are just evolving themselves. I don't know if the economy is going to have anything to do with, but that being said, then you look at big cities like New York and San Francisco and Philly that have just become complete utter rubbish. I mean, just,
Well, here's the
trash.
thing.
And they're all under the worst cities in America. And it's your beloved party, Trippy. They're all Democratic run.
No, I was just going to say something about my beloved party. During COVID, of course, there was the PPE, the payroll protection program.
oh yeah.
Why isn't there, without COVID, why isn't there something like that for Derek?
The PPP
For,
loans.
like
Well, I
him,
mean, I actually got PPE during COVID, and that was
right?
cool. But
But
but, but I'm honestly though, and I'm just going to shock you about me now. Honestly, now I wouldn't want it because and this was a flaw what came out of Trump's COVID era is the amount of expenditure, the $2 trillion spent. That was we had a much better economy under Trump in terms of inflation, but that was kind of the kickstart to where we let everything go out of control, right? And said, hey, let's just keep
as
spending,
far
spending,
as
spending, spending, spending. All this money will just, oh, it's all free. It'll all be there forever. So I'm just not, yeah, sure, give me 30 grand, whatever you want to do, but I know it's not going to help me long term.
And I know
well,
I
everybody
my
know
got
it'll
to
help
thing
me
put,
is,
today, but I know long term it's just adding more and more and more and more fuel. Now, if
my
you want to
point
take
is,
some of like the leftover money piles from COVID and surplus money that Florida had that gave to the federal government to give to states like Michigan to waste that money, anything still laying around in all these agency funds and crap that's not accounted for, or all this money we're sending overseas, if you want to give me some of that, I'll take it, but I wouldn't want additional government expenditure from it. I would say it could be reallocated and help our economy a lot.
I think that next
well, there
pallet of
was a
cash
trillion and a
going,
half dollar tax cut that went to big business, just like you said, the PPE loan went to you.
Right.
I don't think that big business needed that $1.5 trillion, but I do know struggling small businesses that could use 30%. It could have been 500 billion to a lot of small businesses in America
Yep.
and prop
It was
up
basically
them.
just free for all, first come, first serve.
Well,
It
no,
was
it's based on big business having big influence. And that's where I disagree with that tax cut.
well, why don't we just actually ask your buddy, your uncle Zelensky, to have him send over that money back to
You know,
us,
I
and we
I
keep
can,
will
making
take that money back. I want some of those Bentleys over there.
yes, or some
That's
of his, how about his
BS.
yacht?
and I keep saying the amount
Oh,
of
he didn't hear me,
actionable
so I was waiting for
intelligence
him.
and
Maybe we should
research.
just turn on our pipeline and shut theirs off. And I think the money would sway the right way in a matter of about 2 weeks.
Well, theirs is entirely different than ours. I don't think Biden should have shut down the Keystone pipeline, but the one that's allegedly running from Russia to Europe that was blown
Nord
up,
Stream, yeah.
Nord Stream, that
Who
was
makes
blown
money
up.
off that? And what do they do with
It's
that
blown
money?
up. I think it's dysfunctional still for 2 years now. It's been blown up.
Nah.
And Putin keeps saying it was us that blew it up.
It might have
I hope
been.
it was.
Well, we keep denying
Are
it,
you
but
not a
he's
fan of
everywhere.
Vladimir?
I'm
No.
not a fan of him having money to screw the world up and make us send money overseas to get spent on God knows what. No,
No, we don't give
But
money
we're
to.
they
being
No,
all
no,
they
I'm
all
talking.
need
I'm
to
talking about Putin.
Am I a fan? I don't think anyone's a fan of Putin's a monster. I mean,
I,
there's some
right.
things
I
out.
actually like. I like Putin.
He
So
likes them like
Well,
Trump
his
likes.
okay. Let's compartmentalize it. His demeanor can be funny sometimes, right? And his direction and authority can be admirable at some point, but obviously his ethical and morale is in the
yeah,
toilet, right? So I mean, to just separate him, that's all. No, I don't like Putin, but he's entertaining. It's like some people don't like Trump, but you can't deny his entertainment. It lives in your head, right?
Well, here's the thing about the fascination with Russia that generally the Conservative Party has. America is a country of 300 million. In order for us to compete with China of 2 billion people, their internal consumption can beat our economy. So we need a partner. The idea is that Western Europe's not a good partner. They're big on entitlement. They never have no money. They're not really good security partners as far as NATO allies go. So if we had this partnership with Putin, Eastern Europe, which Trump had this relationship, this business relationship all his career, and he was able to build golf courses even when nobody else was building because the money was coming in from Russian oligarchs. The investors were Russian oligarchs. That would pop up America's economy to the point of success, eternalist success. That's a great theory and it works. The only one issue with it is Putin because you can't trust him and you can't do business with him.
You can
And,
trust he's going to do what's in the best interest of his country at all
and
times.
he's going to screw you in the end. So Warren Buffett tells this story of how he was investing in oil fields in Siberia. Big money. And they
right.
were drilling oil, and Warren Buffett was sending over equipment and staff, and they were doing just great. The oil was coming out of the ground just great. When Warren Buffett wanted to take the oil to America and sell it, Putin said no. And if you try taking your equipment or the oil, your staff is going to die on our soil. So he pulled his staff, and the deal went to Putin. And that's an
Well,
issue.
why would you go to a communist
Well, apparently that's what
country?
Trump does, and that's the fascination that Republican conservatives and Trump have with Russia. Let's partner
You
in
know,
business.
again, simplify it. Putin's going to do what's in the interest of Putin's country,
And he's
just
going to
Right.
like
rob the
Right.
investors, which is essentially what Trump
obviously,
does.
just like Xi Jinping is going to do in China,
Right.
just like we should do from an ethical standpoint, and I'm saying from an ethical standpoint with our country too. And how you do that is you just say, well, I'm not going to allow your investors in our country.
Well,
I'm not
that
going
could
to,
be.
I'm not going to take your investors and steal your investors. I'm just not going to allow it in.
Well, we shouldn't allow Chinese investment, but no administration has
Did
ever tried to stop it because we
did
owe them
you
$1 trillion.
speaking of Chinese investments, did you know that every parking meter in the city of Chicago is owned by China?
No.
Well, there's toll roads that are owned by China. They build the roads
They
and they
do
get the
bridges, yeah,
revenue.
they do bridges and they
Right.
collect the money. Yeah, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
but you know why? Because like you keep talking about the 60 billion we sent to Ukraine. It has nothing to do with the 60 billion, or it does have something to do with it. But the fact of the matter is, America's been a country at war for the last 50 years, and China's been a country at peace for the last 50 years. And we've spent trillions of dollars on war, and they've spent trillions of dollars on growing their economy. And there was this great story about China building this 12-lane highway, and you could ride a bicycle and weave in and out of all 12 lanes for the first year. But as the economy grew, now this highway is packed with cars
Right.
because
Yeah,
they had the money to invest in highways and roadways prematurely.
but
Whereas we would,
they didn't invest in their own people. Their economy is blowing right now. And you know how much
only because
there are so
everything,
many empty formerly
right?
1 million people cities, every crazy stuff in China that you would never see. And part of it too was their reproduction limitations in the early 2000s that went on for years, and now they're actually
Depopulation.
worse. Like they're screwed. So from an economic standpoint, it wouldn't take much to kind of maim them in terms of control, ownership of land, and anything we talk about that's scary biologically or ownership based. I don't think it's that difficult. I really
We
don't.
don't have the money to do it though. We owe them trillions. I mean, we
Well, that's the problem. But if we owned everything here, made everything here, yeah, prices would go up, but you would have such great wage growth. You'd have such independence. They wouldn't have any support. You more good would happen than bad. It might take some time, but I
but
think that's
has any
I think that's a
president done
different
that?
subject for a different night. But
Yeah,
Right, right.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean like I saw
plus I gotta eat dinner, dude.
I was
Well,
thinking that too, actually.
I gotta go to bed. I'm an old man.
You ate before the show, didn't you?
I did.
You suck.
Little chips and salsa, watching
You did
TV.
not just have that for dinner.
Me and my wife were watching. Have you watched that show, Bad Monkey?
No.
Oh, it's hilarious. It's on Apple TV. It's hilarious with Vince Vaughn. Funny show. Check it out. Anyway, so we could go on for hours, obviously, because we have lots to talk about, lots to discuss. I think the topics tonight were great. We got some insight. Um, Trippy's still voting for camel toe,
Oh,
so we're all right with
Not
that.
after next week. Trust me.
no. October 22nd on my birthday. I
What's your
call it that. You ever see that Kevin Costner movie Game Day? On October 22nd, I build my team, and on
Is that the
November 5th,
baseball
I
movie?
have the team I always dreamed of.
Yeah.
Can't wait.
Oh boy. Here we go. But listen, guys, we got to wrap this up. Obviously,
Yep.
we got a special thanks to our very cool visitor this evening, who we're going to have on. Hopefully, much more. Do some
Yeah,
more
no,
shows.
this is fun to me, honestly. This is really enjoyable. I like looking at things. I like compartmentalizing and balancing and looking at more objective, even though obviously we all have our emotions, feelings, and anyways, go ahead.
Sure. No. But this has been a great show, and I think fingers crossed we're going to get you and Daniel on next week.
This will be great. I'm here.
That's going to be a beast.
Unless you
But
guys vote me off the island.
yeah, you might get
I'm
voted
going to
off the
be
island.
pretty
You
on
called
top
me
of
you
it.
called me your co-host today. I'm the host, pal. I'm just
Oh,
kidding.
that's right. That's right.
I'm
Well,
gonna I'm
we're
gonna I'm gonna
co-hosts.
snuff your torch, pal.
I don't think there is a. You're co-host.
He's the ghost of
I'm
Christmas
messing
past.
with you,
Oh,
Rabu. Relax.
plus the three of you are going to vote me off the
He's
island.
gonna start crying. He's gonna be texting me, really, man? I'm off this
Is there a
show.
spot for five squares? Because Lori Ann can and
We
pass.
can, we can. I can do as many as we want. We'll
Do
get
it,
Pat.
man.
We'll get Coach Darrell on too.
Let's do it.
Oh
Oh, did you
man.
get a chance to watch it when we had Coach on last 2 weeks ago?
No.
Derek. Oh, you got to see him. He's
You don't
awesome.
upload. You need to update your Spotify stuff, dude.
I know.
We'll talk about that. Not right now.
Okay.
I know.
Our beloved engineer is under the weather.
She's
So
sick. We have to be careful.
I said she's under the weather.
Yeah.
Needs
So
to be up.
she will. She will. She's
All
a
right.
rock star. So that being said, guys, we appreciate you coming on tonight, Derek. Trippy, as always, we love you. And we love you
Thank
guys
you,
for
Derek.
watching us. Thank you so much. Make sure you like, subscribe, share, tell a friend, tell a phone, tell everybody. Get them on.
Comment.
And until next time, much love and peace.
Peace. Deuces.